So today we're making a video of No Kings protest. It's been happening it's been happening across the U.S. They've been doing this. The ICE agents had came to several airports the last several days, for the last 5 days or so, since Monday. It was a fresh off and to the work week, and we have seen the protest. Look at this, having their picket signs, and those teachers for the union strike, and all those protesters. This is a peaceful protest that we're seeing now. It's like their government, they need it for the protection of needed to protect, so they can be law-abiding citizens as well. And I know there's just one woman hearing that announcement, megaphone. Let's listen. Wow.
I'm graduating this spring. Being in college today has been an emotional roller coaster. Some schools are too expensive, there's not enough scholarships anymore, and there's a lack of resources. And this is the direct result of Gordon Hole's office. To me, no kings. Boo!
Wow, but they have the same boo. And there's a woman who she says she's 17 years old. She's graduating this spring as well. There are a lot of megaphones that people who want to speak up for themselves, saying whose streets are streets, why, yelling and being upset about the ICE agents, and bragging about immigration reinforcement, and bragging about protest. And it's Saturday, March 28th. Today is Saturday. The protesters had begun, and it started off several hours ago. And this is where they have it's like a concert going on right now, and they have streets closed off now in several directions now. I'm pretending to be on the ground and on air, along with my camera person that's been here with me as well, just pretending. It's a skit. We're doing it for the live streaming. One woman holding the picket sign and the drink, and they have people that have to sign up for the protest in City Hall. They're like LA Dodgers signs, and having their American flags, waving their American flags up, and they're cheering once again 2 times now. And there's a Donald Trump sign as well. There's a Donald Trump picture sign. And there's like American Blue, and all these people out there who have arrived here that I do appreciate it, because today we're doing a live streaming. It popped up as well, all across the country and all across the U.S. Marching in downtown, surface streets, several surface freeways. They wanted to get this ramp closed. Not only they don't want these cars running into these protesters over, and they don't want the pedestrians over. The police has to stop traffic. But we are right now downtown. We're live here in the City Hall downtown, just pretending. So, just kidding. I said like no kings. Many of them signed up for the protest, along with news helicopters arriving overhead. They've been staying overhead within the last several minutes or so. We could tell you that this could be a possible, in fact, the song as well. They're just starting to march over here, all the way here, and there's all the people that are marching in signs of solidarity and about the rainbow flags. Many of them holding 2 flags with picket signs. We're just pretending to be on the ground and on the air, but we're doing this a live streaming only. So what I could tell you is those protesters going out there to march as well, and we're gonna head towards on the road and on the streets as well. They're gonna be cheering up, is what I suggest as well. They've been arriving within the last 95 minutes or so, and this can go on for several hours. It's only for today. This is where they have been sitting down, standing there in the hallway near downtown there in downtown LA for the last several hours. Earlier today, this afternoon, since they started protesting, I found out the live streaming about the protest. They want to abolish ICE, going in there with parked cars, going overhead, marching in the streets. I know that this has been going on. They've been listening to this. All they have their megaphones advocating for themselves. Imagine if I was the reporter doing my live streaming on my YouTube channel, covering the protest. I would have to go sign up. I would have to go sign up for the protest if I have to. But I'm not sure if I'm ready or not. Well, this where they have to is holding their American flags. They're making sure this is a peaceful protest that's going on right now. Holding their signs, getting ready to have their megaphones up to say blah 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 blah. Whose streets and our streets? Immigrants are welcome here. But all of this, they've been falling overhead now. When the news helicopters have been hovering above. And I can tell you right now, they're just sitting in there in the line as well, marching overhead. They're getting out of the City Hall Park area in downtown LA. Their American flags waving. We're seeing here, this is several millions of them come here to protest. They came here to protest. They got here to protest for ICE agents, immigrants. They're still here, waiting for the crowd to catch up. And they have been arriving within the last several minutes or so. One person having their cell phones up, and I can tell you, once they're going to be coming up with which surface streets it is. This is what's been going on. The news helicopters have been hovering overhead for the last several hours. This is what's on, and they have their rainbow flag, they have their tambourines, and we see people out there. Look at them marching in the streets. Wow, this is like a peaceful protest. There goes the Donald Trump balloon. You don't need to know you don't need to keep announcing this, but we do. Once again, singing their songs. No justice, no peace. All those signs, no justice, no peace. This has been going on all afternoon, throughout the day, all day long. Earlier today, this is the third time that they've been protesting. I wish this was my first time doing the live report. If I sign up at the City Hall, if I sign up at the City Hall, if I wish to go protesting, and I know because they want to abolish ICE, and I know they're like protesting for ICE agents, upset about it, making their voices heard, and their voices should be heard as well. and they're crossing. They're gonna head towards the freeway. Hopefully they don't get on the freeway. They're gonna make this as a peaceful protest. The police will make sure they have to stop traffic before it gets chaotic, before it gets out of control. And once again, so many kids and the people out there protesting, marching, no kings, and to America, Trump must go now. And now look at this. Wow. I have to blur it out to you to show you that. This is images that we want to. And then this is what democracy looks like. And all those are like human traffickers. I see, excuse my language. What I'm saying is they're like ICE agents were there in U.S. airports so many times several years ago. And it's like a protest going on right now. This is where, this is what happens, that's been going on. They've been marching within the last 10 or 15, this has been ongoing march for the last 10 to 15 minutes or so. And you're seeing lots of millions of protesters in downtown LA marching towards saying united people, united will never be defeated. People united will never be defeated. They're just marching out there. Some motivation, no tensions, no de-escalations, none of the violent stuff. Everything seems to be peaceful. That the crowd is catching up, and I know they have their signs up, their megaphones, their drums playing, and I could tell you what we are seeing now, what I could say that's coming up on another street in downtown LA. The marchers, we'll see what the marchers will head towards. They're gonna be marching towards somewhere, in the area. And they have their cameraman, their camera crew up ahead, Monarch we need, and all of those stuff. And they're like protesting. Let me go on to Fox 11's YouTube page in Los Angeles. And what I could say, this is what they're marching still. It continues on with the live streaming. And they're out there marching toward the downtown LA, heading toward, they're still playing their drums with their beats. And I know so many of them have their cell phones out recording the protest. And they're like no king signs, all of that, like king or queen in the castle. Well, who does that? It's like no king's protest. And excuse my language, please forgive me. A matter of fact, I apologize. Like they're just hearing stuff that we're hearing. That they're hearing now. The news helicopters been following overhead ever since, where there are a lot of protesters still doing their thing. Everybody behaving themselves out there, because they're making it a history, such history making for many protests throughout the years, throughout decades or so. The news cameraman is following over on the ground, walking, holding their camera, and they're like, now they're Mexican, half American flag. We can tell you this has been ongoing for the last several minutes. And this is ongoing march for about 15 minutes. And I could tell you this was on over and over again. And we're just seeing the protesters continue on. They have their cell phones out recording. And they're hearing the Mexican song, all of that. And now they're just singing that song once again, holding their picket sign on both sides. You see several billions and billions, quadrillion, millions of protesters across the country. All those weird words, stuff, defund those police, no kings, no justice, no peace, stop terror, stop. And they have their pickup truck overhead shouting, immigrants are welcome here, all of that. And this is where It's been ongoing before this. I know for the fact that saying they have their signs, ice out, American flags waving, American Palestine, Mexican Palestinian flag, holding it there, and they're like, love justice, ice out. They're just marching, and as they approach the hour, this is a police chase. The march has begun. The march had begun about 5 minutes ago. The march had begun about 5 or 10 minutes ago. This has been ongoing for the last few moments. This pursuit, no, not the police pursuit. We'll get to that later. This protest continued on. This protest continues in downtown LA. Marching, no kings. Look like an old person right there. Could they see something? Abolishing the flags. Upside down, the wrong way. Right way flags. I should have blurted out. They follow along. I know, wish there was a video from news helicopters overhead, and there's just gonna be all of those American flags. Trucks been following overhead. 2 trucks following overhead. The big truck, the half big truck had been following on the ground, doing like a parade, class clown. Immigrants welcome here. They're just marching here. And as you're seeing now, on the main aisle, steps of the aisle, just that they're seeing just no. Once a primary, they're making sure that no one should be looting. And their message tonight is no one should be arrested. They want to make sure this is a peaceful protest. It's like a gesture here. It takes away the camera person holding the phone. They object to the Trump administration, what transpired over the last year, over a year ago, since the new year had begun in 2025, and it happened as of this year in 2026. 3 years. It happened. No. It didn't happen in 3 years ago. I said it happened 3 months ago. Since January, February, and March. Almost 3 months ago. And they're going to see, probably hearing the music going on, drums going on, and all the light bands here, all those band instruments here. Wanted to be out there. Flags, protesting. People are out there protesting, and we're going to let you listen.
Similar to what we've been showing you from Stupendo and Skyfox in California, great visual of how big this crowd is. I will say, to Susan's point, this has been a very peaceful protest throughout the morning. There's been a little bit of foul language throughout our interviews, but other than that, let's move away from it a little bit so it's not so loud, so we can actually speak here. But
God, man, I gotta go.
So they're just continuing to march here.
Mario, if you can hear me, and that was wise for you to get away from all that loud music because I was having trouble hearing you. When an organization has a parade, they have to have permits. Is there any sign that the city of Los Angeles knew that this was going to happen and then accommodated this big crowd to be marching around City Hall and downtown LA?
Definitely. I'm not exactly sure about the permitting process, but I'm sure there were some logistics here setting this up because this is one of the largest demonstrations that we're seeing here for historic No King's Day protest demonstrations across the country, and dozens here in the Southern California area. So I will say the LAPD has been very, they've been prepared for this. They knew about this, and they pre-deployed LAPD officers. We were talking earlier how some people haven't really seen an LAPD presence, at least in uniforms, and that is because what we've noticed during these protests is that oftentimes they're in plain clothing, because that can, of course, escalate things if you see LAPD officers in the middle of a protest. So a lot of these protesters may run into plainclothes officers undercover here who are looking for those agitators. So Susan, the LAPD, the city, they knew about this for quite a while here, that this was happening, and it really is a mobile organization here, multiple local nonprofits and community advocate groups. This is organized by SoCal 5051. That's a political grassroots movement that is opposing the Trump policies that have been put in place since he took office. So we've been seeing a lot of costumes out here, a lot of signs, but this is definitely an organized demonstration here as we continue to make our way through the streets of downtown LA. We just passed 2nd Street. We're now making our way to 3rd. And this is a 1.5-mile route through downtown LA. So what we're going to do is eventually make our way back to City Hall, where this all started, where they had several speakers hyping up the crowd. And I should also mention that they were running a little late with the itinerary. So they had the speakers about 40 to 45 minutes late. So that means this march as well was about 40 to 45 minutes.
They were 45 minutes late. They were 45 minutes late. They were on their way to the City Hall to gather, to protest. And they're going to head back to the City Hall to where it all started.
Now, Mario, I wanted to...
And this is what, like...
You are, okay. I wanted to ask you this question.
Blurring out that inappropriate stuff as well. Nothing seems to be happening.
You know, ice out, or in this case,
Ice out.
the
In
third
this case, is
King's Day, no King's Day
rally.
So have you noticed a difference in the
difference,
crowd, or
the
even
crowd,
the signs?
and
I
rather
think the
signs,
are a little bit more PG than
PG, like a description stuff on the picket sign. I don't want to show it to you.
I think you're right. It's interesting.
They're
because
right.
a lot
It's
of people
very
that
interesting.
already out here say
They're having an opportunity out there to march, to go outside, be marching, sign up for the protest, all of that peaceful protest. Expecting more people to be out there.
And the signs are right.
They came here today. Several million people gathered there in downtown, and they have a sign on all of this, and they're right. Because to that point, they're blocking traffic. That I see a BMW 528i 2005 car of the year.
There were some estimates that would even
53,000.
going up to 100,000.
3,000, 100,000, 3,000 people gathering here. Wow.
Feels like there are hundreds directly around us.
And all of those signs. Wow. And all those from above, they're just marching.
All right, so keeping an eye on what's going on
Just
in the
stopping
downtown
traffic.
area. And oh, okay, Mario, I see that you've got somebody there that perhaps wants to say a thing or two about why she's here. Go ahead.
Yeah, Susan, appreciate it. So tell me, where are you from? Why'd you come out here today?
I'm from Southern California, Valencia area.
Let's listen to what she had to
I'm
say.
here today fighting against this regime.
What issues in particular are you frustrated about, or what's impacting you?
Women's rights. I have daughters now that are growing up with less rights than I have. I feel we are becoming an autocracy. Sorry. And and so just there's like some of the signs say too much. You know what? For one sign, there's just everything that's going on that's not okay.
Is this your first No King's Day protest? Have you done this before?
No, this is my third No King's protest.
Susan Hirosuna made a good point. She's on the desk right now, and she had mentioned how what she's noticed, what she's seen, is that some of the signs aren't as extreme, but we talked to people who say that there's more urgency. How do you feel about this one compared to the previous two?
I hope that our numbers are higher. I'm anxious to see what the aerial shots look like. We need more people out here. Enough people need to stand up and say no and stop this from continuing.
And who'd you come out here with?
I came out with my college roommate and her friend.
Valencia as well?
No, they're from other areas in Southern California.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. So, as we continue to talk to people here throughout this route, Susan, there are a list of issues. You just heard that woman talk about women's rights. And actually, the first person who's brought up women's rights, we've been hearing a lot about the war in Iran, cost of living, government overreach, and the deportation issues here immigration enforcement in Los Angeles and Southern California. So different reasons why people are being brought out here. You heard that one stations from Valencia. We've heard people from the IE, the San Fernando Valley, even people from the Bay Area, as well as this march continues to go on here.
It's actually quite impressive that people wanted to give up their beautiful Saturday afternoon in order to come out here. But perhaps that's another reason to come out, which is you get a walk through downtown, almost like Ciclavia, where you get to walk along and take in the sights and the buildings of Los Angeles, but at the same time raise your voice. Now, Mario, let me say to you, have you talked to anybody that is not in line with these people?
Yeah, we've been stopping people, pulling them, from the crowd, and we haven't really seen any counter protesters, I should say, who are against what the protesters here, demonstrators, are calling for or what they're fighting against. So that's another angle. A lot of the times we've seen these counter demonstrators and agitators out here, but we haven't seen any of that yet. It's important to note that a lot of the times that happens.
A lot of their times they're saying, hey, hey, ho, ho, change is possible. Chanting, marching, fist pumping, screaming, crowding up, cheering, and all of that. Like, this has been ongoing. They've been marching now for the last, it's been going on for the last 10 to 15, this has been going on, this protest and this ongoing march had been on, they've been walking for the last 10 to 15 minutes or so, and we are seeing protesters waving their flags, chanting, being heard. Demonstrators are making their way, making their echo voices, all their signs, all of them had their signs up, holding up their signs, would be protesting. They're also out there marching towards, I don't even know what they're gonna head towards to, because they're gonna head towards that. We have seen activities going on. This has been normal, this has been peaceful, everybody's been behaved whatsoever, and they're like marching, walking there, and they're just heading towards, they're still marching in downtown, making their voices heard. One person has been interviewed by a news reporter, and just been given the side of the story to him. So and they want to have their signs up, blue, color, all of that.
Okay, so tell me, what are you and your family out?
We're protesting against the tyranny,
Protesting
against dictatorship.
against ICE, all of that, marching towards the streets as well, marching in the streets, towards the areas, all of that. Hopefully that does not enter the 101 freeway like last year, over a year ago in 2025, and they're just sitting there walking past the traffic lights. The car almost hits the protest. Happened last year, over a year ago in 2025, and I could tell you one thing: they want to make their voices heard, and they're having a good time so far, having a great time. Raising their hands, holding their signs up, all of that, like human beings that are protesting. They're out there marching, and they have their cell phones recorded, whatever it is. They've been marching for the last several hours. They've been marching. The cameraman, the camera person the camera crew had been there ever since they walked out of the city hall. They started marching this since about 4:10. Since about 4 o'clock this afternoon. I know their voices should be heard and seen in a way to have their voices heard. They want their message to be clear, and all of that stuff to go on, and all of that I could say. A lot of people wearing different clothing and all that as well. They're just holding their clothing, all this stuff. They're like marching, people in the pedestrian sidewalk, taking videos, taking photos, protesting, taking photos, taking pictures of the protest, marching outside holding their flags and to make their message heard, to make things a great time for the great America be cool, be normal and peaceful again. When there's a peaceful protest once a year for no kings, once again they want to march up, walk up, make their voices heard across the area. And I know for a good time of status that they've been overhead. I've been doing this for at least 30 minutes on my live streaming and on my YouTube channel. All of the lawlessness has to stop. All of this, like the Epstein files that we saw, someone holding it up. Nobody seems to be agitated. Everybody seems to be calm. The LAPD will be coming up here shortly to stop traffic, so they can let the protest go through. They're holding hands each other in solidarity, and could have been for any war that they've been blocking the parked cars, blocking traffic a little bit. They're just sitting down. They've been sitting down underground. The helicopters had been overhead. They've been hovering above now for justice for all, free for all, free, all of that. All of these marchers cheering up, yelling their voices, crowding up, tight security spaces, like a data breaching protest, and all of that. When there's somebody had been reporting there as a news reporter for the last several years. All of that. And they're like people out there still in downtown doing their own thing. They're just cheering up, chanting. The crowd control. The news reporters have the authority to report and make reports, and to report it and talk on the air, online, and on TV. They have a right to do all of their reports once again. They have a right to do all of their reports during the broadcast, during the newscast, whatsoever, whether it's the evening, in the night, whether it's the evening, throughout the night, throughout the morning, throughout the day, throughout the afternoon, and all of this. They're sitting down there. Once again, not everybody. I've been doing this live streaming for like a day, because I'm doing this on my YouTube channel, because I apologize for all of that. Please forgive me, a matter of fact, I'm sorry. And they want to keep marching throughout the day. It's like they used to have curfew effect in Southern California, downtown Los Angeles, before, like last year or so. There would be protesting until 6 a.m. in the morning. Last year it was looting. It was violent. Everybody has gone out of here, gone home. Last year, before the summer break had started, over a year ago in 2025, marks 1 year. And since the beginning of the New Year's, it was during the coldest day in all times. During the time they're just mentioning that. They're just sitting down, they're just walking, not running towards that since today. They haven't seen any fights, they haven't seen scuffles, cheering up, getting excited. Like, they use government in order to make their message and announcement, unless something special happened, surprise visit, or deployments could happen once a year. I don't know, because it's for today only. They have the camera photographer taking videos. And whatever they have decided, once again, is because of that. It's not difficult. Typical time, and they're blocking traffic. They are stopping traffic. There's gonna be this like several people, and they're gonna keep marching within the next hour. The reporters had been on the ground, and helicopter airborne reporter. The helicopter reporters have been hovering above overhead. Same with the police helicopter. They've been following overhead for the past 20 minutes or so since they started marching out of the city hall. Since the protest has started, this peacefully protest, this has been ongoing ever since they started. Most news reporters could take notes on their legal pad, whether on a notebook or on their phone or on their tablet or their devices whatsoever. And I could tell you that things have been quieting down. Things have been self-controlled, been respectful, and this has been peaceful protesting. And this were.
Are you seeing anybody on the rooftops, perhaps watching the crowd that way?
And they're watching the crowd that way. One person had been interviewed. That is one person that's taking videos of it. Wow. And then someone has been marching over this since yesterday. We're gonna let you listen. Since they've been marching, not yesterday, they've been marching this since today.
You know, Mario, I feel like they speak in shorthand because they are so familiar with their objections. But sometimes you don't really hear a great explanation of what their objections are. Like
they don't hear the great explanation, explanation of what their voice has been here and what they are. And they're like, all they could say, who do you say, who do you protect, who do you say, who do you protect, hands up, don't shoot, whose street, our street, whose street, our street, streets. This is what democracy looks like. All of the stuff that they see on television and during the broadcast throughout the day, and where they want to say, immigrants are welcome here. Hey, hey, oh, ho, no justice, no peace, all of that. This is like been ongoing since about yesterday. They have their drums playing. Someone would be playing their drums during the protest, holding their signs. They would be interviewed by those news reporters if they had to, and they would know who they are. One female individual had their voices being heard, had their megaphone, and they have been on this since forever. And I know this has been blocking the parked cars, traffic stops. They're not necessarily directing it. I know, like deportation, and up, down with deportation. And they're just sitting down here since today. They now know why that they're hearing it. What's going into their ear gates. And they could say, how could they handle the situation when the police came here and used their megaphone, and they have 5 minutes, they have 5 seconds to disperse, they have 3 seconds to disperse to get out of here, and they want to make this as a peaceful protest. Like I've been saying good things about it, the announcing, all of that. And I know for the defunding the democracy and bureaucrats, red tape, sometimes when there's a newspaper that are overhead, idea has been putting it forward for several decades and several years, for several years now, for a long time now, for a long time, and they are the people against their dispersing protests, and they are wanting to go out in the community. They wanna hold arm to arm, that there's picket signs. There's like sometimes when there's an escalation, standoff for several hours long standoff with police, riots, and the looting, all of this. This has been ongoing since like today, this afternoon, on a Saturday afternoon, and this is where they're having their backpacks on. And they never criticize each other whatsoever. Critical to believe it's no violent stuff whatsoever. It seems it's a peaceful stuff going on right now, having their voices to be heard, and locking arms in arms, like not locking arms in arms, going around, going in there to protest. They have their LA Dodgers shirt on. They're turning onto a surface street, and they're waving their flag. The woman and a child. I gotta blurt it out. Sorry. So what they're against this is like a stuff's been on. And the news helicopter reporters had been overhead. The first helicopter was overhead this afternoon earlier, and then this evening now. We know now they've been marching for about. And they've been marching overhead for about the past 20 to 25 minutes or so. Since they've started protesting, those news helicopters, news reporters on the scene, getting on top of it, because due to the tall downtown buildings, marching overway, millions around the southern California. What they're hearing, their voices heard. I know that the part about the thing that I do on my live streaming. One time I uploaded a protest that happened in February, 53 minutes video long. They're having their, oh my God, they're gonna be gathering here. There's gonna be too much crowded. It's gonna be. The traffic seems to be okay. There's gonna be good stuff going on right now. There's the LAPD, the CHP. Oh my God. And I hope that this doesn't happen again like it did last year. CHP officers teaming up. If that thing enters into the 101 freeway, the police wants to. And they're gonna make its way towards that building and towards the area. Those people with tents heading back towards the city hall, where it all started, whatsoever, marching towards that. I could say this is like adrenaline rush. Things have been walking slow a little bit since about 4:15. They have been marching for about 30 minutes. Since they started marching, doing their walkout on a Saturday afternoon, on the weekends, they have their flags up and their megaphones, bullhorn, megaphone, using their voice to talk about stuff on TV, on broadcast for national TV news media agencies, reporters on the ground, saying whose street, our street. Now they have their streets closed off, and now they have their picket signs as the crowd made its way towards that. This has been a good part of this, and they've been listening. We saw the CHP vehicles just moments ago on the on-ramp of 101 freeway. That usually when they set up the area and when they gather here, and their voices should be heard, and not heard. Their voices should be heard. I want to blurt it out because it's much better now. And as they're just, oh my God, so many Trumps overhead marching this. They could have been overhead. They have to get up to 1,000 feet due to those downtown buildings. And I know traffic seems to be okay. Everything seems to be peaceful. Those are the fire departments, the LAPD, LA Fire Department, LAPD, LAFD, moving along. Large fence around this area. Once again, marching towards that. They have stuff going on on other streets as well. And what I could say there is what I believe there are no people inside that sidewalk. They're at the VA Loading Docks Hospital. I know it's very complicated. It seems to be peaceful. No tension, no more violent stuff, clashing with police, no clashing with police whatsoever. Everything so far so good that we're hearing. We're letting you
Seen
listen.
many times where those federal officers come out with their tear gas, less than lethal, to push back the crowd.
Sometimes they would have to push back the crowd. They would use tear gas, less lethal, and they would have to be ordered. They would be told to vacate the area. Once again, they want to be in a hurry to go protesting along with the friends, like a parade, celebration, march to march, parade, 70th anniversary, acting like this is the one and only. You see, they're like graffiti has been there for several decades. For several months, 3 months. I don't even think sometimes during the protest that could happen. Type of target. And there was a courtyard over there. They're like protesting. And they do believe news cameras overhead, on the ground and on the air, on the scene. Overhead, the news helicopter cameras overhead, along with the pilot. And there goes the advertisement. I'm saying this is major. I've dealt with a lot of live streams from the news channel, from the news YouTube channel, news stations, Los Angeles news stations YouTube channel. Lightning over there for the generation, and that is cool, and that is a generator. They're just sitting and marching towards that, not running. They're not running. They're not running in a hurry whatsoever. And so far so good that we've seen. You guys are tuning into my live stream. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. Please comment down below. Drop in all of your chats.
I'd like to say this is the element of protesters, I think, that we've seen in previous protests that have given the King's Day protests a bad name and a nasty element that occurs. And it usually starts just before dusk, and we may see LAPD move in here and move these people on before it gets too dark. Because if this gets out of control, we end up seeing a lot of possible destruction, similar destruction we saw in Little Tokyo a while ago. But they tend to always push the crowd and those troublemakers down to this corner here, and then you have this sort of Mexican standoff that goes for hours. So it'll be interesting to see what LAPD does tonight, whether they move in. Of course, this is a federal building, so the building is under the control of the federal government and federal officers, but the street is LAPD. So it's the responsibility of LAPD to clean up this area here, which can probably get a little confusing for some people.
Yeah, confusing because LAPD has said expressly that they do not work with the Border Patrol or with the ICE actions. But as you point out, they do have to maintain the safety and the fact that cars need to get through, pedestrians need to get through. So if these protesters, demonstrators, in any way are blocking normal traffic, then LAPD will step in. It's sort of interesting, or we wonder, and we didn't have a chance to ask Jim McDonald, the chief, or LAPD in general, whether they have a different course of action or strategy for this No King's Day as opposed to the previous ones. This is the third, the first of 2026, and of course the
Three
protests
times
that you're
now.
talking
Three
about that
times.
wound up with a lot of
Three times
destruction, a lot
now.
of tagging
Marching.
in the Tokyo area.
This is the No
That
Kings
was
rally protest.
actually a
The
nice
third time
out
now. Three
rally.
times
It wasn't
now.
aligned
Three
with No
times.
Kings necessarily, but as you know, and as pointed out by others, when you have a No Kings Day rally, it brings out lots of different people who just want to raise their voices peacefully and march along with people peacefully, and then some that might be more agitators and have a specific gripe against perhaps the federal government and the Border Patrol and ICE. So we're watching, and Justin, you're doing a great job. Oh, actually compliment the pilot for giving us a closer look at what's happening as people are making their way through the downtown area. And it is interesting, just so that you and I were just in that general vicinity talking about those new black gates on the 101, or specifically actually the on-ramps and the off-ramps. So in the past, we have seen, and multiple times, not just these kind of rallies, but multiple times, we have seen protesters go onto the freeway. So that's what Caltrans and CHP is trying to prevent, is protesters making their way onto the freeway. Frankly, I remember on Election Day when President Trump was elected the first time, and there were spontaneous protests. They came to downtown LA, and eventually they did indeed wind up on the 101 freeway. And we've seen it in other instances as well, where people go from where you're seeing them now, basically near City Hall, and then they keep walking along. Perhaps in this case, they're walking along because they're getting closer to the federal building, and then they decide, let's go onto the freeway and raise our voices that way. That is not considered peaceful. That is considered something that is illegal and disruptive beyond what people are doing here. This is planned. Everybody, the city knows about this big protest and rally. So this has all been planned and worked out, and police and security know all about it, but it is when there is spontaneous protest and they make their way onto the freeway or places where they're not supposed to be, that's what's going to trigger police action. What are you seeing there? Was there a smoke bomb?
Yeah, this looks like some type of, I would imagine that's some type of firecracker that somebody's let off in the crowd there, and so let off a little bit of smoke. The crowd here is making their way from Main Street. They're turning west onto First Street, which is going to bring them up to Spring, to the front of City Hall. You've seen is the front of the march. You've seen these, I think Stu was referring to them as parachutes earlier, very pretty from the sky. And to your point too, Susan, I've been watching the stream earlier. With the crowd here, it's a mix of people. It's not the anti-Antifa people. The general was well into his 60s or 70s, so it's bringing out a different sort of crowd who are feeling the need that they need to protest what the situation in our country at the moment. This crowd here peacefully walking along and just making their way back in front of City Hall. We haven't seen any indications of anybody entering the freeway. I was looking on social media just a moment ago, and there were the first video there of protesters actually entering the freeways in Denver, where the police officers had to use some less than lethal force to get them off. But we haven't seen anything like that here. It appears that the marchers are simply walking back to Gloria Molina Park, where the march began, and possibly to continue their speeches.
Thank you, Justin. And let's just point out that this is the largest protest, No Kings protest, for our area. But in fact, there are 3,100, 3,200 protests like this across the country. Not all of them as big as this one. Even in our general vicinity, it's quite impressive how many different protests there were today. Some are already finished. I think a couple of other ones will go later into the night. But they were in Ventura, Upland, La Habra, Corona, San Dimas, Monrovia. The list goes on and on. Woodland Hills, there was one between 10 and 12 p.m. Christine Devine was apparently in Santa Clarita and had a lot of people expressing their reasons for being there. It's a lovely day for a walk. There are plenty of other areas where it might not be as pleasant, although we did see that it does take some effort, and you might get overheated while you're walking along. Not for people who are American flag purists. They might not be happy to see all the upside down flags, American flags, a sign of distress. And so that protesters' a way of declaring their point of view on what's going on in our country right now. From up there, Justin, are you feeling like, when was the last time you were up overhead, this kind of a protest? Were you overhead for the October No King's Day or the one in June?
I was overhead for the October, and we were, unfortunately there was a baseball game on that day, and we're going to run into the same strife there as well, where we will have to leave the area here at around about 5-10 p.m. But I was up at that time, and again the march was very, very peaceful during the day. But as soon as we were up in the air at 4:15, we saw a showdown with authorities, and there was lots of less than lethal being fired from the law enforcement towards the crowd in response to the crowd throwing objects at the police officers. And at that time, there was a bridge. I'm not sure if they're aware of that bridge. I think it's on First and Los Angeles. There were protesters on top of that bridge throwing bottles and some type of concrete blocks at the officers. So it was kind of on for old and young there from about 5 p.m. all the way through the night. Unclear whether that was going to occur today. We're not seeing anything like that now. And to think back then too, Susan, there was a bit of a different feeling. I'm not feeling the same angst and anger that was occurring then. And of course, that was on the back of the protests that you were mentioning back in June, where those CHP, remember those visually, those CHP vehicles were had rocks and almost tried to set a light on the 101 freeway. We had all those Waymos that were called in to pick up people that were set on fire. So I'm not feeling the same angst that we were feeling back then in October. But again, I believe then officers saw what happened in June, authorities, so they certainly jumped on them quickly. And once the crowd began to sort of get out of hand and become violent in some ways by throwing objects at the officers, they decided, okay, let's shut this down now. And hence why I'm speaking regarding the detention center. It would be interesting to see how long officers allow the protesters there to stay out. Because unless, as we've seen in the past, these protesters here for the No King's Day protest, they tend to really disperse after when the event is over. They don't hang around downtown. They tend to go home. So rambled on a little bit there, Suze, but I hope I answered your question. It's not feeling the same angst, and
all right.
The crowd.
Let's hope it stays that way.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, and Justin, let me just interject. When you mentioned the Waymos burning, wasn't that wasn't the October protest? Wasn't that the early June protest? There was actually an ICE out rally.
Yes, that's correct. It was the ICE out rally, and it was the June protest, I believe, and that was on the Sunday that the ICE protest. And that's when the city, if you remember correctly, we went into I believe it was 4 or 5 days at least of curfews. So it was only really, that curfew was lifted really after I believe businesses in downtown began to complain that it was really affecting their economy. So it really had a huge impact on the Los Angeles economy, that big protest in June. Just looking again back here in front of City Hall, I'll pull out a little bit wider so you can get an idea. Beautiful day out here in Los Angeles. I do feel a little bit familiar.
It's a beautiful day in LA, downtown. They've been walking peacefully for about. People have been marching for about 35 minutes. Since they started marching, they're still gathered at the City Hall. Sometimes when they have looting, confrontations, conflicts, violent drama. This happened last year in October of 2025. The ICE agents were still around. Was the ICE agents back in October of 2025. They have so many national walkout day, like so many things across the country, across the U.S. They were marching in there. They're just holding their signs. They're still marching there. Everything seems to be peaceful, and there's still no traffic coming through. There's a police barricade. The LAPD will show up a little bit later on. So there's likely they would be most likely to be peaceful protesting, and it's LAPD's responsibility to clean up after the looting of violent during the violent clashing protest. And there's a lot of countries, not a lot of countries, I said. There's a lot of folks, a lot of camera crews, a lot of people, not a lot of countries, and I said countries, so a lot of people, a lot of them had been marching there for a good hour or so. They've been marching now for about 30 to 40 minutes since they started protesting. These people are not involved in the protesting. One woman and two women not involved in the protest. They're just the LAPD headquarters right there. They have the trap. They're making sure that that those protesters stay out of trouble. Sometimes that could be troublemakers causing problems throughout the night. Ever since January, February, things been out of control. One person with a megaphone had to be taken down by LAPD SWAT tactical team. And I know, like, sometimes when there's clashes, sometimes things could get out of control. Sometimes things could be peaceful. Sometimes things could be violent. And I know the fact that they're marching towards that, they're gonna march toward all of that, holding their signs up, making their voices heard, and all those people, all those millions of people came there to gather. And I know that they have been marching here for a good period of time. Sometimes when there's a looting conflicts, confrontations, destructive, fighting their way through the gate, making their way out of the area so they can be protest. And when they're asked to be vacated, and this is where there's going to be a curfew in effect for at least 5 to 10 p.m. this evening, on regular evenings, 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock p.m. in the middle of the night, on a Saturday night, and on a Sunday night. In the middle of the night, on weeknights, when there's a curfew effect for protesters. Now cheering up like a parade, crowding in. Wow, they're going to be coming in here. And there's no traffic at all. Streets have been closed off, and I could tell you, for the last several hours or so, I could tell you there's marchers out there. Sometimes when there's a confrontation, sometimes when there's violent riot, crowd control that they have to take place. They have to take control for the police to stop, and they have 5 seconds to disperse, to get out of here. It's been the past 10 o'clock. It's been the past 10 o'clock p.m. Go home. Get out of here. Come back protesting peacefully tomorrow, like they are protesting peacefully. It was today. And sometimes last year it was violent. Things had been destructive all the time in LA. Southern California, there's no issues, no clashes, no violence, none of that. Everything seems to be okay. And they're just out there marching. And now, as I could tell you, nobody's on the freeway. There it is. Nobody's on the freeway. No one's out there. I know when they're out there marching, there's an LAPD unit right there. Thank goodness those protesters are not entering into that freeway like they did last year, over a year ago. Like they have the verification prompts about could have been the response with their megaphone, and they're like, put their people to their attention to their right, and they're like, crowd, yeah, woohoo, hey, ho, ho. The police had to stop those protesters sometimes from going through, and there's like those security cars overhead, on the ground, They have streets closed off in LA, downtown LA, and they're seeing this. It's like a major event, No King's Day, going on as of right now. So when I'm just assuming that they find it, only the LAPD and the LAPD SWAT team have the authority. They have the authority to do that. They have authority that those protesters can and cannot do to go get past those police barricade. They would have to block the protesters from going onto the freeway for their own good, for safety reasons. And they have a right to protest. So many cars, oh my god, getting involved. Now, there's a LAPD airship overhead, thank goodness. Hopefully it's not nighttime, sooner or later it will. As I heard, this will go in fact sometimes about 5 to 10 p.m., 6 a.m., whatsoever. It's going to be several hours long. Wow. We the people. Wow. They're all their signs. I'm holding up signs and I have to blurt it out to you. I'm trying my best that I can. Every time I see this, so I'm not really laughing whatsoever. I could tell you, they're just out there having a great time, taking things seriously by being on their best behavior, not having any fights. They're very adamant to get to the city hall. They're very determined to make their voices heard, to make their message clear. They want to gather. They want to gather around the city hall. They're gonna head back towards the city hall since it began, since that thing had started about 45 minutes ago, and now. And I could tell you that there's cars parked over there, marching toward. I could say they're just gonna sit there, and all of that thing could happen. That live streaming, it can go on for hours and hours. Many people having their wagons out. I know it's the tall buildings in the way. They have to get around that. They're marching towards that. They're just sitting in there. There are No Kings protests across the country and in the U.S., around the globe, and in the U.S., around the world. And they're sitting, they're like out there gathering in. No violent looting whatsoever. Oh my God, they're having to block traffic. I wish those police could get out of the way. And I know for the fact that those police, the news reporters, have been on the ground along with the camera crew. They have been on the ground for the last half hour or so since they started protesting, and then they got back to the city hall. American flags, those are the trucks. There goes the camera person. Wow, 2 persons out there. Wow, they drive into that SUV. They're grabbing him by. Wow, signs have been brought out everywhere. This is like a No King's Regiment protest, and this is like. Things seems to be peaceful, and sometimes it's liable. Sometimes things could get out of control and out of hand. Sometimes it gets unacceptable. It gets unacceptable nowadays. One of these days, it gets unacceptable. And sometimes this stuff would get out of control. It would get out of hand and get out of line. Like protesting, like marchers over there on the ground. And when you have the security breaching, data breach gates, that the gate fence was closed near that VA hospital, that they know for the fact that I know what has been happening. And they're marching towards that. There's protesters out there gathering in. There's like a protest gathering in the park, and they're gonna be marching in the next 2 to 3 miles. 3 more miles, and they're gathering here. And it says "Eyes Out of LA." And it's been in here since 5 days ago, on Monday, 5 days ago, since they arrived. And I know
First Spring Street.
All right,
So,
we're back.
You know, Justin was
We're
right. I
back.
think the
We're
crowd-
back now. My phone got overheated. It's my live streaming was interrupted. I did that for only an hour. I'm doing this for like several more minutes long, for about 20 more minutes. So we're gonna let these two individuals hear what they had to say. Two women had to. We're gonna hear what these two women had to say. We're gonna let you listen. I've talked over the video this whole entire time now, so we're gonna let you listen.
We came out here because I'm a granddaughter of immigrants, and if it wasn't for them, then we wouldn't have the future that we were able to have. And we have many families that's living in fear, and that should never be right for anyone, because God does say love thy neighbor. So you should be able to love everyone. Everyone's welcomed, and yeah.
After today, what does change look like? I know No King's Day, this is the third protest. Do you think these demonstrations actually make a difference? Are your voices being heard? What do you think?
Personally, I do think voices are being heard, because I've met people who have changed their opinions on their beliefs, and they are starting to support like the different people. Yeah, I see change.
And if I can ask you quickly, what do you think being out here with your children?
Well, like she said, we came from a family who actually sacrificed, was a farmer worker, which is why we were able to be here. Bringing them, and so that their future keeps growing and not be in fear, that they're able to acknowledge the freedom that they have and other people don't. Just like she said, we do have people that are neighbors who don't even come out to the grocery store for a fear of getting stopped, or even just a traffic stop. And that is something that I want them to, just because it doesn't affect them yet, that they're able to look out for their neighbor that was affected them.
What area are you all coming from?
Orange County, actually. Yeah.
Thank you all so much for talking to us. So Susan, we saw some signs earlier that were being held here that said not a paid protester. I think a lot of people want to make it known that if they're out here and they're out here for a certain reason, they're local and they're sharing with us exactly where they're from. Although we have seen people from Northern California, people from Arizona, the IE, the San Fernando Valley. So it's really spread out here along Southern California. You mentioned the colorful groups. I'll have Gino come with me a little bit this way. You can see some of the traditional Mexican clothing, I believe, here. Those women in dresses. And again, we're still seeing part of the crowd here starting to disperse in front of City Hall near Spring and First Street. This is one of the largest coordinated protest days in recent U.S. history. And we talked to organizers earlier here with 5051 SoCal, who said that the U.S. is facing authoritarianism, and L.A. has been ground zero for immigration enforcement debates. And it's really interesting because a lot of the people here in downtown, as we've been going past some of the businesses, say that they decided to bring their families out here. They decided to bring their children out here to kind of teach them a lesson about this movement and making their voices heard. And as we were passing some of those businesses downtown, we did notice some were closed, perhaps closing early, but some were open. There were a few little convenience stores that were open. People were inside, coming out as the crowd started to pass. So you have to wonder about the people who are just in the downtown area, not knowing that this protest is happening, and then seeing these massive crowds pass here and just coming out to take a look. So it's starting to really thin out here, but there is still a crowd. When I was talking to the organizer a little earlier, he said when the crowd does get back here, there will be a few more festivities. They'll also have a demonstration.
So just to sum all of this up, really quickly, they've been on the ground for the better part of an hour, and they were marching towards, you can see the estimate, those little restaurant here, and then making food, and then protesters holding their signs, holding objects, items, standing there in the middle of the intersection for the better part of an hour. That's what I said. These people starting to kick the gate. That's not cool. And then the news reporters had been standing there along with the camera crew, the photographer, then seeing those signs, holding up the signs, walking out of the city hall. And you know what? LAPD officers will be deploying here really quickly, shortly, if they don't disperse. And then blocking traffic happening downtown LA. One car almost hits a bunch of protesters. Thank goodness they stopped traffic, but the bystander has been keeping his cool, waiting patiently this whole entire time for the past several hours, since about 4 p.m. And then at one point millions of them had been marching, having their drums, making their way to the surface street, 6th Street, and then marching and walking in their rights was being entitled to their invocation. And then devastation of peaceful march continues. And then there comes the LAPD. They're gonna disperse here in a minute. Look at this! They have tear gas. It happened with George Floyd, with police brutality. He got put on a chokehold by a Minnesota PD officer that was sentenced to prison. He was sentenced to prison for he was responsible for the chokehold for George Floyd's death. Things were chaotic since 2020 during the pandemic. Protesting, none of them were doing social distancing. They got close to each other. They could have been sick. They could have got each other. They could have been giving each other COVID-19. Those protesters, they could have got sick. And this was not social distancing. It was happening in Northern California, across the U.S., and then Southern California, all across the United States, and all across the country, around the globe. It happened in May of 2020, almost 6 years ago. And there are now the protesters kicking the gates. That's unacceptable. Kicking the gates. That's unacceptable behavior that we are seeing. Agitators outside the federal building holding their flags, and I can tell there are many protesters got interviewed by those news reporters side by side, one by one. I should have listened to them to hear what they have to say. This whole entire time I was reading my script in my own head, and I picked up lots of words. I picked up lots of words from my own head, and then at one point it was a lovely day on the point of view. Things have been peaceful on a Saturday afternoon, and now destroying the gate, trying to destroy it. This is unacceptable behavior. Pushing the bystander, agitated, being cruel, abusive, using a middle finger, unacceptable behavior whatsoever. Trying to be disrespectful to those LAPD. This is not cool. When they had the protests in January, 3 months ago, and then I could tell you once they start arresting those protesters who's been agitated, things was peaceful. The other one has been agitated. Those protesters, I could tell you, they're just wanting to take their anger out on everybody, taking their anger out on everybody. Then pounding the gates, one person, then the other one taking videos with cell phones, and does not seem to care when there's people outside. And then the march, they got there late, about 40 to 45 minutes to an hour ago, and then photographers from the news station took pictures of it. The journalist, the press conference crew was over. The press conference one holding, the other one holding the sign. The news reporters got over there to the scene, and then things had been out of control. Next to that 101 freeway, blocked traffic off on the 101 freeway, and when it hits the breaking point, the transit bus got blocked by those protesters, and they got 10 minutes to disperse or they're under arrest. From the news helicopter reporter from NBC for LA's news helicopter, Miss Eliana Moreno. She's one of the nice news helicopter reporters. And those news reporters, they're nice news reporters from NBC for LA. I've listened to them to hear what they have to say. The legal analyst, special guest from NBC4 News in LA, and I know when there's a TV station for several years now, and I can tell you now, lots of them protesters out there, and then they want to go take things too far quickly. It's starting to escalate, and we are hearing this now. Coming up next, we're going to NBC's 4 LA's YouTube channel in just a few minutes, and they're gonna be, traffic seems to be moving, everything is okay. The protesters has not been entering onto the 101 freeway this whole entire time. Thank goodness the traffic remains peaceful, but it's still a rush hour Saturday evening commute. Commuters trying to get somewhere, trying to get home, trying to get somewhere. And now they're holding their signs, getting mad, taking their anger, fist rage, then kicking the gate, beating on the gate. That would cost them money. Oh no. And whatsoever. Definitely when it hits to that breaking point, right there is those photographers, press conference photographers taking pictures of the police officers from a distance. They're doing okay. It remains peaceful a bit, and I know.
So we're watching as these people.
They're watching as these people.
Those gas masks.
They're trained as gas masks. Those press conference, those news reporters were on the scene in downtown LA on surface streets, peaceful. The other one, a little bit violent whatsoever, and I could tell you, they're not gonna let them get through that. They're not gonna have them get into that building with that attitude, raging, pushing their way, trying to get their way, marking a territorial situation that's completely out of control. This is escalating here, and this is where federal agents, SWAT officers, police officers, wow! Federal officers from ICE agents, they're coming to make sure that they're dispersing and they can go they can go protesting somewhere else. 3 times now that they have been on the No Kings rally. In the center of this, they're just trying to get each implication of that. And as we let you listen for the last several minutes, we're letting you listen.
People coming prepared, somebody throwing something there.
Oh my God, throwing something there. Oh my God.
Coming prepared. Just from up here in Skyfox, I can see that not necessarily military grade gas masks. That's a member of the press. He has one. But these other people tend to be wearing. If you go to Home Depot, if you're going to do some serious painting in your house, you're going to buy the best.
If you go to those hardware department stores, do some serious painting, you're going to have to buy lots of paint to put on a mask and your apron. You're going to wear all of this kind of stuff that's on you that you're going to buy. Paint the house, treat yourself whatsoever, and now the damages, they're breaking through the gate. Are you serious? They're gonna break the gate. I cannot believe this. I can't even believe this. Trying to push the gate, take their anger, abuse those federal ICE agents, officers. Look at this. I can't even imagine what they could see. Their behavior has gotten out of control. These protesters are not going to get away. And they think they run things here? I don't think so. They don't run anything here. Those federal agent officers run things here. I would have one of these electro voice microphones. If I get it on eBay and those mics plug in and my mic flag and my mic flag cushion, I would be reporting on the ground for No King's Day rally protest. But it ended about 5 p.m. or so, several hours ago. And I know we're gonna go to there YouTube channel shortly.
Specific No King's Day protest get underway. And
I would have
organizers
to go
had
to the
expected
city hall and sign up for the protest, if I have to whatsoever.
protest, and it's hard to tell exactly how many people were out here, but
My parents make me, then they're gonna make me. I don't care.
we started seeing a steady stream of people arriving in the morning, 10, 11 o'clock. They were already making their way here in the downtown area. So as things are starting to slow down, organizers say they plan to be out here for another maybe 45 minutes or so. They don't want the event to go on too long because they know once these crowds, organizers leave, certain things may happen, and LAPD may start to move in, and that's when things may start to escalate. So, Mayor Bass, we've been watching to see if she has had any comment on these protests. And earlier she had just urged demonstrators to remain peaceful, and that is what we have seen out here. The message has been unity and community support out here. We have been talking about the local organizers as well.
They're pushing things too far earlier.
SoCal, local grassroots movement that is against the political policies that the Trump administration has been enacting, and they've got support from 30 plus groups out here. So that is why you've seen all these different local unions out here, all these different immigration rights groups, and you still hear some of the chanting out here from different groups. So let me ask these guys, hey guys, we're live right now. Can I ask you what brought you guys out here? The march? All right, no problem. But it looks like you guys are having a good time. You guys enjoyed the march? Yeah, they enjoyed the march. It was a little warm out here, but we definitely
you've got the shy
ourselves in here,
people,
Susan.
Mario. They're pretty rough.
Exactly. The first time we've got the shy people in the march is over.
All right, we're not gonna get to that
As part of
pursuit
the
yet.
largest
We're gonna go to their YouTube channel. As I said, we're gonna get to their YouTube channel shortly. We're back on the live streaming, so it was resumed because my phone got overheated for the past it got overheated for the past couple of hours or so since I started to charge my phone, and I know for a fact that No King's Day protest, and we're gonna say a few words from my scripts in my own head. I want to say, yeah, taking place in Chicago, blah blah blah, about NPC4's YouTube channel. That's interesting because I want to get to their YouTube channel shortly because I want to get to this. Okay, there are some agitators.
Then another group of people that were
Agitators, another group of people coming in, milling away. People have been peacefully protesting, marching, a little bit too lenient, however, in downtown streets. And they're point blank, according to their live streaming and my live streaming, it's 65 degrees in LA. The police have arm-to-arm armored shields in their clothing, or on their own uniform clothing. Those people had been protesting, then so many teenagers out there protesting, and I don't know if it's a college or teenagers, I can't even tell. I don't even know. But we do know the helicopters, the airplane, several police units trying to get through in the gear, and I know they're gonna have 5 seconds to disperse, or they could get arrested, they get tear gassed, and they would start running, crying, moaning, complaining, acting like a crybaby. Okay, I'm off topic a little bit. Well, I appreciate me, but I'm sorry. They would start running, panicking, and according to they're having their Mexican flags hold up, and the bicyclists going by, commuters going by, the streets has been closed off for a number of reasons. Earlier today, since we did our live streaming, and they're gonna have to get ready. Those are the news, fan. the news station fan. One person holding up a phone, and you know what? This is what happens. Wow. And this is where it's been going on. I can't even tell if they have their they're in riot gear, and now they're also, and I can't even imagine. Wow, many people out there in the middle of the night. It's the weekend though. It's Saturday. We're gonna get to that two back-to-back more police chase videos a little bit later on tonight. We're gonna talk about the safety. Things have been peaceful there. They did not want this to go on for too long. Wow, that bicyclist was driving fast. Another one. One woman looking at the camera on TikTok, and then looking at the TikTok, and then recorded by those individuals there, and I know that if it happens again, and they're yelling a little bit, getting agitated a little bit, and they're upset at these officers taking their anger out on everybody. What I could tell you, they could have their way. I could tell you that. If you're tuning in, comment down below. Please drop in all of your chats, and I'll be able to get back to them and as I read them. I want to thank that one person that commented down below earlier today, this afternoon, on my YouTube channel. Thank you. Whatever, for like 1990s. This ain't 1990s no more. It's Y2K still. We're in 2026. Anyway, they're just sitting there doing side streets in their bicycles. Thank goodness it happened over a year ago with the Ford Mustang convertible. Hitting the curb. Those crowds were in a hurry, getting amped up, sugar high, getting excited. And I could tell you what we're hearing. One person had the mask on, and they're hugging each other, and the police. Dings had been slowing down a lot. Dings have been quieting down a little bit, a lot. American flags out there in the middle of the night on a Saturday, out there in the middle of the night on a Saturday, because I know it's been. Look at these people out there holding their flags in the sidewalk, but they just want to stand there acting like they're bored, and they're completely bored, and they want to be bored. Protest, disperse. I know for the fact one person has the tripod on. The press conference with the mask, taking pictures of protesters as our cameraman, my camera crew keeps looking, doing a fantastic job keeping track of these protesters. The police had been doing a great job. The LAPD airship had been doing a great job. The news helicopters doing an amazing job, as always, keeping track of that protesters during the broadcast on my YouTube channel, and on our live and our live streaming, and when they got overhead, holding their signs, picket signs, LAPD going away, and turning around, still there. Wow, and this is not even cool. Whatever they do, it's not. Driving fast, and they got their protest holding up, and I can tell you that this is the police units. They're going fast a little bit. The traffic seems to be okay, lights, and I know I don't even care about the WPN Visa 10. They gave it to me from Chicago, that I was born. They gave it to me. The Make-A-Wish Foundation from Illinois gave me that laptop right there as well. You see it. It's a MacBook Air. They gave me an office. Wow, and they're like playing the music, playing their drums, and playing all of this. I'm gonna let you listen.
Yo, thank you for the Army CT. That's
Like an army infantry soldier. They're gonna get ready to disperse.
You like that, you fucking pussies?
Okay, I do not want to hear the profanity. I apologize for that profanity. It's coming out of their mouths right now. They're gonna get ready to disperse. And they're getting crowded, cheering each other up. The car's going fast a little bit. Thank goodness it didn't hit anybody like it did last year, over a year, June of 2025. Wow, and then also I can tell you right now, I apologize, I have to turn it down a little bit. Because of that cussing and that profanity, I apologize for that. Please forgive me. And I know for the fact that they're just the car's going by a Buick LeSabre, a Honda Odyssey. All many cars that are out there on the roadway in downtown LA. And I know using their megaphones, chanting, coming in there, acting like this is a concert. But I know things are being peaceful. The LAPD is going away. They're leaving, and I could tell. Why would they leave? But they need to stay there, and things have been peaceful so far. They're not violent. They're non-violent, non-chaotic, none of that stuff. Everything seems to be okay. Going away one at a time. Look at this. The police going in there, they're going to catch up to whose streets and our streets chanting, and the police could tell. Not the police could tell, and I could tell you this though. It's quiet night. It's 8 o'clock. This on a Saturday. It's 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, and they're cheering whose streets, our streets, and there's a cameraman, photographer with the backpack on, shirt on, white shirt, and I could tell you that they're just cheering. Their sirens a little bit. One individual had their scooter on, and then they're not liking this. They're pedophile protectors. One person had said that go home whatsoever. And they want the LAPD to go home, and this is not fair. They have a job to do. The LAPD officer smiling. What they're doing right now. Thank you. And I can tell you this though. Up ahead now, you're just sitting down there, and they're going out and about now, going away with their sirens. Now going away, using their, now going in, waiting for those LAPD cruisers to get out of here so they could go